Well, my first recollection was that Joe Tripodi, who was then the Labor government minister responsible for ports, called me in, and he and I are not particularly close in any way, and I wondered why I was being called in. And he said, "Mate," that's always dangerous when they say mate, he said, "We've got this problem with the Hunter Valley Coal, and more particularly the Port of Newcastle. He'd been in trouble with the length of the queues offshore and so on, and he said, I'd like you just to have a look at it and see if you can get everyone together." So stupidly I said yes.
Yeah, look, 2004, 2005, we had huge ship queues offshore. I think the ship queue peaked at around about 80 ships offshore at one point in time. The cold chain was characterised by the port blaming the track operator for shortages. We had the track operator blaming the port for the shortages of capacity. And essentially there was nobody to fix the problem.
Very dark days at the time. The intensity of the demand for capacity, we were being squeezed out of business. We were struggling to survive. So the HVCCC gave us an opportunity to survive and to grow. So it was a blessing for us.
When we first set about setting up the HVCCC, the key was to grab a couple of industry players that were really keen to get on the bus and really recognised and had a vision for what the future might look like. We started with that small group, and as other members of the supply chain saw what we were able to do, they were keen to join.
In the early days, there was some suspicion that the big fellas were going to override the little fellas, but I think to their credit, Jonathan van der Voort as the initial CEO and his team gave comfort to people that they were going to get their coal loaded on the ships in the time required.
For the first time, we actually understood the chain. This allowed service providers, such as Port Waratah Coal Services, to renegotiate our contract with the state government. This further allowed us to align all our logistic contracts so that the coal industry could guarantee supply of capacity through to the vessel.
And we were flat out constructing a new coal terminal, but we were dependent on the whole coal chain working to make the terminal work properly. So we were particularly interested in making sure there was full coordination of the coal chain, from the producers to the rail system, and then in the two ports and shipping.
Effectively, for Port Waratah Coal Services, which I was working with at the time, it enabled them to plan for what to build, when to build it, and where to build it going forward. And I think new producers can appreciate now they've got more certainty now than they ever did before, and that needs to remain with a body like the HVCCC.
The HVCCC has ensured that the coal chain has become far more efficient and far more capital effective than it ever used to be.
It's so important that the logistics is managed well from the mine through to the ship, because if that's the case, then we allow every single producer that exists in the Hunter Valley to be part of a competitive coal chain, which means we can compete very effectively with other export coal ports around the world. So that is the real essence of the value that's added by the HVCCC.
I think the key 10 years ago was that the coal chain was really starting to expand. Big capital decisions were being made around more infrastructure, but I think most importantly, the commercialisation of capacity and coal chain capacity rather than discrete port or discrete rail capacity meant that people really had to get their act together. And it was really trying to create an entity to coordinate that in a fair and equitable way.
Having an improved data set to allow planning for certainty to deliver what the contracts required is a key element that the previous models struggled with. And so understanding where we are now to where we were before and the advantages of that is a good thing to stop and remember 10 years down the track.
There are still other supply chains throughout Australia and the world trying to emulate what we're doing with mixed success. We were very fortunate at the time with a high vessel queue and active interest of participants that were able to get it off the ground and make it what it is today.
Happy 10-year birthday. They say success has 1,000 fathers. failure's an orphan. Well, in that sense, I think the Hunter Valley Coal Chain is a success, and as one of 1,000 fathers, I wish you all well.